Hey guys, this week's Lani chat, I am sharing my live video from Instagram. And so because I'm in Bali, the quality is a little bit turdish at the beginning, so just hang in there, it'll get better. And stay tuned until the end of the video to hear about my live workshops that I'm doing to promote all the healing. One of the things I hear a lot, people just see me on social media and they think that I've had this amazing, really easy life, that I've had no struggles, and that can't be farther from the truth. I've had all the struggles actually. So in this video, I'm really just cracking open my heart, super vulnerable. There's some tears, and I want to share with you all of the things that I went through and how I got to where I am today, because it had nothing to do with luck and it wasn't freaking easy. And my intention is to stop you from making the same sabotaging patterns that I had to go through in every relationship, in my relationship with my body, to finally get to this happy place where I'm comfortable, confident with my soulmate and in a healthy relationship. There's a way to get there. And I went through a million roller coasters and I was 20 pounds heavier all the time. I kept choosing abusive relationships where I felt worthless and unhappy. So my intention by opening up and sharing about my crazy childhood, my abusive relationships, is to show you that I am not perfect, that I've had all the struggles, and that I was able to pick myself up, find a mentor, and get where I am today to a really happy place. I hope you guys enjoy it. Watch till the end. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys soon. Okay, so let's start, and everyone else can just kind of join in. I am a little uncomfortable. I'll just start with that. I just wanted to really open up my heart and share all my truths with you guys, because this is what I ask my clients to do with me. And I think there's something that's really incredible that comes from sharing just how human we are, right? Just not kind of coming in and just having this social media version that everything is perfect and everything has been awesome and it's super easy, and there hasn't been any tears or major struggles, and that is so far, bug, if you don't get away, that is it's all my girl, that is so far from the truth in my life. So yeah, I just wanted to be super open and honest and just share a little bit and hopefully inspire some people who are going through the same thing. Oh my god, this bug is making me lose my mind. Okay, no more of the bug. Hopefully I can inspire people going through the same thing, that are having the same struggles and the same fears and the same doubts, and yeah, to just show that there are ways to break through from anything. So just a little quick rehash. I think I've already talked a bit about when I was little. It was really super chaotic and super hectic. I'm the oldest of 5, but by the time my mom was 26, there was 4 of us kids, and I was always the second mom. I think I just always came out kind of bossy and just always felt like I wanted to take care of everyone and tell everyone what to do. So I just came out like a bossy pants first kid, and with this weird kind of feeling that I needed to take care of everybody, and I was my job. So then my parents got divorced when I was 10, and I just remember it was always, we were poor, the house was always dirty, there was always a lot of fighting. It was just really crazy. It was just super chaotic. So my parents got divorced when I was 10, and I fully stepped into the mom role. And I remember thinking at a really young age that if I don't take care of my brothers and sisters, nobody will. I felt this weird thing inside that it was my job to take care of them. So from then I kind of made it my purpose to take care of them, and it was I was a mom. I always had to check on them before I went out. I was feeding them, and I just took it on as my responsibility. And then in the meantime, I came up with this idea that if I'm the one taking care of everybody, that I have to be really fucking strong, and I have to be don't show any weakness, because you're the one taking care of everybody, so you have to be super strong. And the only way that I got attention, because my parents were both just trying to survive from a divorce, being married for 10 years, they got divorced when they were 30, so they'd already been together for 10 years. They had 4 kids. It was a whole bunch of crazy Mexican kids running around. So the way that I got my attention was being really good at things. So I was always like trying to be the best kid. I was always trying to be the best at gymnastics. And that's where I really got this story that like if I wasn't perfect, if I wasn't the best, because I didn't really get attention any other way. So I was like learning, okay, you have to be really freaking good at everything. You have to be the best. Like you strive to be the prettiest, the smartest. I always was just striving, and that's the way that I got fed this attention and this love. So I had these stories growing up that like life was really hard, because it was really freaking hard. It was really chaotic. I always felt like I was screaming for attention. I always felt like I wasn't heard. I felt alone a lot. I felt like I had to take care of everybody. And so, of course, I turned that into my relationships. And the first abusive relationship I got in, I was 20. And, of course, I was this, like, wild Lani with, like, I think that was, like, the Coyote Ugly era. So I, like, always had my little freaking crop tops. And I always have been a crazy dancer. I've always been loud. Like, home videos when I was, like, 4, I was, like, always this crazy. So straight away it got into, like, really controlling. Like, he didn't like when I wore makeup. He didn't like the way I dressed. And because I was just so starved for love and so confused and so used to chaos and like toxic being loved, that I just like totally morphed. And he would be like, why do you want to hang out with your friends, and make me feel really guilty. So I just completely, from 20, we broke up when I was 23. If you like the Leilani I was at 20 to the one I was when I was 23 was just like a shell. Like I wouldn't even have recognized myself. And one of the ways that I coped was always like my eating. So when I felt really out of control, the only thing I could control was like I just didn't really eat that much. So every time I got out of an abusive relationship, and I've had a lot of them, I've always gotten like really thin, and just my body reflects the weak state that my mind is in. Like I would just choose these people, and I would get broken down, and I would get told, you can't do this. One story that really came up in my life a lot was, you're a whore. So I heard this from like every partner, and this started to like in my household, if I was going out dancing, like it'd be like, you're a whore, you're a whore. So this was something that I already had heard a lot. So the last thing I ever wanted anyone to think was that I'm a whore. So I would just immediately stop wearing makeup. I remember I've been in several abusive relationships. One of the ones, I remember walking down the street, and at this point this is a separate one from when I was 20. Same thing, change the way I dress, quit wearing makeup. Like I would dress like a homeless person, because God forbid anybody gives me attention, so my boyfriend's gonna call me a whore and it's gonna start a fight. And I remember walking down the street, seeing this like super beautiful chick with like makeup on. She looked so confident. And I looked down, and I literally looked like a homeless person. And I was like, holy shit. Like for the fact that I don't want him to accuse me of being a whore or getting jealous, I've literally like lost the Leilani. Like one of my great loves is fashion. I opened a clothing store when I was 26. Like this is a way that I also express my personality with dancing and writing. These are like some of my loves, and these are the things that I gave up in my relationships because I was so afraid to like not be loved, and so afraid to be called a whore, and I just was like so desperate and craving this love. By this time I had still really taken on the idea that my brothers and sisters' happiness was, I'm gonna cry at least once, breathe, was I thought that it was my job. And they all suffer with addiction, so that was something that it was killing me, because I couldn't help them be happy. And I felt like I was failing, and I would have given my fucking right arm to just like stop their pain. So when I was 30, something inside me was like, you're just like enabling them. I was like giving them money, bailing them out of jail, staying up with them all night. It was super hectic, and the only one that was like, I was like, they're already hurting, and now I'm dying too. So if I can't help them, what I'm doing isn't helping them. I'm gonna do something for myself, and I decided to move to Bali. And I come from like a pretty codependent family. Like my there's a lot of weird energies with food in my family. There's a lot of fears of scarcity, like not having enough love, not having enough money, not being pretty enough, not being loved enough. A lot of these abusive kind of patterns in my family. So we all have this really codependent, it's just crazy energy. I find that too, my clients that are going through the same thing, it's just a lot of the same stories when they're little. Like it's this unhealthy relationship with food, the feeling of not being good enough. I don't want to look weak. I don't want to not be perfect. So there's also this codependent thing. Like I'm going to be in relationships with people that I feel like shouldn't because I can't be alone. So moving to Bali by myself was mental, because I've always been like, I'll always be the one to go like dance on the bar and like kick ass and like do the splits and like backflip and twerk. But like I used to get anxiety going to like get petrol by myself or the bank. I would like literally get like a sweat anxiety mustache when I had to go to the bank by myself as a grown-ass woman. It's just this weird thing, this story that came from my childhood, just always being super codependent. So moving to Bali was like this stand that I took for myself, and like talking to the universe and just like saying I'm like asking for some help. I'm taking some huge action. Like I don't want to be a victim anymore. My life revolved around my brothers and our sister was having a good day. If they were sober at the moment, that was kind of where my life was going. And I just took this huge giant stand and I sold all my shit. I had a boyfriend at the time and it was not a good relationship. I'd been cheated on a lot. And usually I'd stay in that relationship to not be alone. And I was like, this isn't working. Like, let's just go our own way, which is crazy for me because the old Lani would have just stayed in any relationship just to be in one. And I was like, this isn't working. I'm going to Bali. So I took a stand and I got to Bali. And I think immediately I met this meditation teacher. And so I did the course for like about almost a year. And everybody would always ask like, why Bali? And I mean, I can tell you that like I did have this pull in my heart to it, and I did really feel like there was something here for me. I did just kind of like, I don't know, it just seemed to like work. I don't know why I chose Bali out of anywhere. I felt just I can just say that there was something inside me that was this voice, and I don't know if you want to call it God or a higher power, but it was like, this is the right place for you. So when I started this meditation course, it was the first time I'd actually ever heard of like that we all have this crazy voice in our head, that we all feel like we're not good enough, that we all suffer almost all the time. And I was just so, it was almost like something had been cracked open, and I was like, this is why I came to Bali. Like I've always known that I was different. I've always known that like feel like I've always had the capacity to love like a million freaking people. But then I always felt like I would just get back into these like sabotaging and like doubting and then comparing myself and then being like, oh, well, you haven't done it yet, you can't, and just that like non-stop thing that's in your head that's just telling you that you're not enough, that you can't do it, that you're not good enough, but look at her, but your parents couldn't do it. Like just these old patterns from when I was little that would just always kind of come in and like sabotage. So like I never really got this healthy relationship. I never really got like the super successful business. I always kind of had these sabotagings coming in, and that would always block me. So this was the first time that I really learned that the mind has so much power, and the reality that we see is just like this reflection of kind of the glasses that we're choosing to wear. So if we always feel like we're a victim, and a victim of our childhood and our parents and our siblings in my case, or like not getting enough attention, not feeling loved enough, if that's always the glasses that I'm wearing, that's always the way that I'm going to see the world, and those are always going to be the things that I'm attracting. So that was like my first connection to consciousness and to presence and to feeling like these little bits of peace during my meditations, and really believing that there was like another way to live beside waking up every morning with anxiety. And I remember one of the huge shifts for me, because in my family and with the women in my family, right, like, so we take after the patterns in our family. So if our moms have these stories that of like, if you're not beautiful, you're not going to be loved, like that came from their mom. And so that's where I got mine. So I always had this really, like, I was always crazy addicted to exercise. Like I would go work out in the middle of the night. Like sometimes I'd work out 3 times a day. I just had this really guilt if I ate anything. Like I would overeat and then over exercise. And I remember moving to Bali and I didn't have a mirror in my house. I was like super broke when I got here. And I think there was a mirror at the yoga studio, that the yoga villas that I taught at. And I remember looking in the mirror and I was like, damn, like I think it's been like a couple weeks since I've looked in the mirror, and I was like, I'd be looking good. Whereas, and that was the moment that I realized I had had this shift, because in California, every time I was in front of a mirror, it was like, name how many things you hate about yourself, like as fast as you can. It was just like, oh, this is disgusting, this is gross, this is gross. Like, I'd always sit there and pinch and just like pick, and in photos, it was just like, oh, I look fat, that's a bad angle, you can't post that. Like, obsessed with always trying to be perfect and showing this perfect side, and just trying to be strong. I thought vulnerable was disgusting. I thought being weak was like what losers do. I thought I would die if I ever admitted that I wasn't perfect and I was vulnerable. So I had these crazy stories just running through my mind all the time. And that moment that I looked in the mirror and felt proud of my body, felt strong, because I started surfing every day and connected to the ocean, felt just this shift. And I thought, holy shit, this is working. This is why I moved to Bali. So I just craved healing at this point. I was like, I want all the healing. Give me all the healing. I was like seeking it. I was paying money for it. I was ready. And I was having some breakthroughs, I was having some shifts, and there was this one lingering story that I had just about being too sexy, and that, again, like I said, came from just the childhood, like being called a whore when I was like growing up and expressing myself and like wearing these cute outfits. So that's something that I held on to. I'd been sexually attacked, so I'd already had this disgust and like shame connected to being sexy. Just for me, I felt like, oh my God, people was like, what were you wearing? So I always felt like it was my fault, and like I asked for it, because like, heaven forbid, I'm like wearing short shorts and then I'm going to be sexually attacked. So I had these stories, and my healers at the time were like uncomfortable with my sexy, because at this time all the people coming to the workshops were like a bit older, and I mean, I'm a dancer, like that's part of how I heal and how I live my life. So just for me, it's like I think I'm just having a connection to my higher self, and then someone else can be like, that's so slutty, why are you dancing like that? And then I feel this shame connected to how I express myself and how I feel free, and like the part of me that makes me feel so beautiful was this just shame connected to my sexiness. And I remember in one of the workshops, I got called up and we had this discussion about being seductive, and he was like, oh, she's gotten unhealthy. I had gotten unhealthy attention growing up, so I had this unhealthy seductive energy. And I just remember feeling so much shame for like being sexy. And it was really confusing, because all the other women in the group raised their hand and they said, we love that. We wish we could dance like that. Like, we think that's so beautiful. And it was like, no, that's not beautiful. So that's just this story that I still carried with me, even though I was having these breakthroughs. It was like my healers were uncomfortable with my sexy. And then I felt like if I told them about my past, they would like feel sorry for me, look at me like I was broken. So I always just felt like I couldn't really truly own everything that I had gone through, and I was embarrassed of it and ashamed. So that was just one thing that I felt that had really held me back. And then I was moving forward. I was thriving. At this point, I did feel like the strongest I'd ever felt in my life. I was like stoked with my body. Like, I have this intuitive relationship at this point where like I didn't need to feel guilty if I ate something. When I was feeling tired, I would have an extra green juice. I had this really great relationship with my body where I loved it. I was proud of it. I felt strong. I felt flexible. I was killing it. I had raised all my prices. I saw my value. I wasn't just a yoga teacher. Now I was inspiring other women to heal from their body issues, from their childhoods, from their abusive relationships. So I was feeling really good, and I was at the top of my game. Like, I was just ready for this next huge step, and I wanted it, and I was ready to leap. And then I met a guy, and I had these goggles on of like, okay, this is it. When true love, you can like get married and everything's gonna be so fast and it's gonna be fine. And I ended up getting into the most abusive relationship that I've ever been in my life. And that's one thing that I carried so much shame about, and I hid it because I knew that it was abusive, and I still got married. And in my heart, I was doing that thing where I was trying to save my brothers and sisters. And I was like, okay, like I can do this through love. I know that I feel like shit, but I got back into that old habit. And that was one old story that I hadn't let go of. And there was a lot of body shaming in that marriage. I was called a whore all the time. I was accused of cheating. I was told what I could and couldn't post. Like, I couldn't wear the bikinis that I wore in Bali. And coming out of this, first just having the shame of being in an abusive marriage when I fucking teach women how to like love themselves. I just felt like this like cowering like shell of a person with no strength. And then bringing that old sabotaging pattern back in my life where I don't really, like, I had this story of like life has to be really hard. I've always had a really hard life. I don't really feel like I ever got any things handed out to me. I don't really feel like I just had this belief that life was hard, so that was my life, because that was my belief. So I had this story that life was really hard. I had this chaotic pattern from my childhood about not ever feeling like I really was good enough, and I had this pattern where I would get super successful and then I'd press the self-sabotage button and then I'd crash. So that relationship was gnarly, and I was physically abused and I was emotionally abused, and I was scared for my life sometimes, and I was alone. I was in another country, had no money, which is how abusive relationships work, right? They like to get control of everything, the money. I had no car, had no family. I was embarrassed. I felt like that old Lani, like, you got yourself in this, you better get yourself out. I didn't want to like tell my parents. It was just like, I went back to like this 5-year-old that had no power, no strength, was scared, was super chaotic. And I'm sitting in this place going like, how the F did I get here? Like, I was thriving not that long ago. I was proud, I was strong, I was feeling sexy. So I decided that enough was enough, and I got myself out, and those old stories took a little bit more time, there's that bug again, to break through. And I had some really epic people in Bali, so I came back to Bali, and I felt like it was kind of my fault, because that's what I was told the whole time, like, this is your fault because like you're dressing too slutty, like you need too much attention, like you're the one making this anger in me, you're the one causing me to do this. So I had a lot of like shame and guilt, and I was super confused. And one of my really good friends, I didn't tell any of them. I was so embarrassed. People would be like, oh, where's your husband? And I'm like, oh yeah, like he's still in Australia. And I was just hiding it from everybody. I was just hiding this huge like monstrous secret in my heart that I was in an abusive relationship, because I felt like it was my fault. So one of my friends, I think people intuitively know when you're fucked up, because I was like 10 pounds lighter, like my face was probably like 20 years older. And she was like, are you happy? And I was like, oh yeah, like it's okay, I might go back. Dude, beat it. And she looked at me, and I was just totally hiding it. Like, I just like didn't want to tell anybody. And she was like, it's okay if you're not happy, and it's okay if you don't go back, and it's okay if you get divorced. And it was like, I just kind of needed someone to like just show that it was gonna be okay, and that kind of gave me the strength. And then one night I called my dad. It was like the 5th night in a row of like so much anxiety, and I'm a sleeper. Like, I need like my solid 9 hours, or I'm like super grumpy, tired. Like, I love a good night's sleep, so I would much rather like skip a party and get my sleep. Ask Chris, he knows. So it makes me go crazy when I don't sleep. It just triggers more anxiety, and it's a really bad cycle for me. And I call my dad, and my dad is amazing. He's like my best friend, but he also is a man, so he's kind of uncomfortable with talking about things. And I remember one time we got in a fight when I was living with him. I think I was 18, and he ignored me for an entire month. Like, that's how he used to roll. So I called him in the middle of the night, my time. He was at work during the day, and I just like lost it. I'm like crying, like finally admitting that like shit's fucked up, I'm fucked up, I'm tripping, I don't have any money, like I came here, like of course my ex like wouldn't give me any money, like I'm freaking out. And my dad was like, you just have to feel it. And I was like, oh my God, I know this, like I teach this every day. I teach like as soon as you feel your pain, you can start processing it. And it was like, I just felt like an angel had come down and hugged me and been like, it's okay, like you can make it through, you don't have to be embarrassed, like you can fucking get up, you kicked ass so many times before, like you can do this. So I actually started believing, and I knew that I was gonna be okay. I knew that I had my dad, I had my couple best friends in Bali, like I was gonna be fine. So I started like believing, and I started fucking talking to the universe again, and I started getting like my spiritualness on, and I started trusting like all the things that I teach, all the things that I had been teaching, all the ways that I had helped women get through their suffering. And one of my mantras was, I am in a beautiful, loving relationship. And I said this every day, and I was like, I don't know if like it's gonna be tomorrow, because I'm pretty fucked up, because I like just came off an abusive marriage and I've hid it from everyone. I've been embarrassed about it. I feel broken, like my confidence is kind of gone. And I just started believing that there was someone out there for me, and I didn't know how long it was going to take me to heal. I didn't know if it was going to be like, I was like, I feel like I'm pretty badass, and I can like look how fast I just stopped crying. Like, I feel like I can heal pretty fast. I feel like I know I'm a badass. I know I'm strong. Like, I feel like I can heal pretty quick from this. Like, I know how to process my feelings. I have all the tools. I had been meditating, but I still had that fear that like, fuck, I'm not good enough. So I wasn't super attached to it, and that's just like the way we manifest everything. And I met Chris, like, honestly, I think just like a few months, not even. And I was at the CrossFit gym. Some of you guys have asked how we met. And I was like rushing because it's in Canggu. It's like an hour away. And I was going to meet my girlfriend for exercise. And I like ran I was changing, and I saw him running by. And we had been like it's such a small place in Bali. So like you're Insta friends. Like I knew that he worked out at the gym, blah, blah, blah. So I like ran by. I'll tell you that story later, like the exact how I talked to him first. So anyway, we met, and it was just like, let's hang out. You're super cool. He's like the funniest dude I've ever met. Made me laugh from the beginning, and that's one thing that's really, really important in my life. I love to laugh. I have a super loud laugh, so like you'll probably recognize me when I come to LA or wherever you are. You'll hear me laughing. It's like really loud, and I love laughing. It's like one of my most favorite things in the whole world. And on our first date, because we know like some of the same people, so I was like, God, I'm sure he knows that like I went to Australia because I got married, and I just was like, I'm getting divorced. And he was like, okay. And I was like, fudge. I was like so nervous to say anything, and he was just like, okay. And every time I've ever told him something that I think he's like what I'm expecting, because like the old Lani's like, oh, you know, if you tell him this, he's gonna leave. And every time I tell him something that I think makes me unlovable or unattractive, or like a wuss or a failure, every time I tell him something that I think is gonna, like, he's gonna judge me, he just looks me in my eyes and he goes, okay. And it's just like blown my mind, because all of my stories since I've been little was like, relationships are hard, they're chaotic, they're fighting, like the dude has to be jealous, like it can't be like super easy. I've had a lot of these things growing up, and then every time anything comes up that's really traumatic and I cry and I tell him I'm being triggered, and I get like a message from my ex that like gives me anxiety, and he's like, okay, I love you, like let's do this together. So that's blew my mind. I never even thought that was possible. Like most of the relationships of women in my family have been super abusive. Like, oh my God, this bug is fucking making me lose my mind. On my Mexican side, there's like a lot of physical abuse, so that's something that I like just grew up in that energy. So just the fact to know that a relationship can be easy, and that there doesn't have to be jealousy, and that I can be like my whole complete, oh my God, it's like my whole complete self, and totally loved, like right now as I am, with like tears and all greasy from Bali, and my 36-year-old, like, you know, wrinkly chest, and just like to know that I don't have to just always be fighting and pushing and pushing and proving and like begging for love. And this is the first time I haven't done that, because in every other relationship I've been begging for it and pushing for it and trying to prove it, and it doesn't work that way. You can never sustain pushing. That's like trying to push like 100 pounds for your whole life. You can't do that. There has to be this flow. It has to be natural. So because I just opened up this huge, amazing thing, and like trusting in like the universe and the higher power, and seeing that actually, like, holy shit, I just manifested like a funny, hot, English, like super rad, amazing guy, just by like trusting and believing and saying, I think I can do this. Then that opened up so many other things. So I kind of like had to start over with my business, and he was like, you can do it online. Like, I hear these women telling you that you're saving their life. Like, they literally say, like, Lani, and it's not me, right? It's this vessel. Like, I have this ability to open up and trust and hear and say and feel and give exactly what somebody needs. It's like, I don't know what happens. I just open up and something comes in and through me and it comes out, and then people fucking cry and they get healed, and it's like so epic. And he's like, that's like, you can't like withhold that. You can't just like hold back and say, I'm scared, or I've been divorced. What if nobody wants to come anymore? Like, you have to do that. And I was like, oh no, I can't. Like, I've tried before. It's not gonna really work. Like, you know, I don't have like 1 million followers and like blah, blah, blah. I always had these stories. And then it came up again, and he was like, you can do it. I know you can do it. I know you have this ability to help so many women, and like, you're like, not like, you're hurting them. If you don't help them, they're gonna die. Like, just the way that you felt, how you were so broken, how you got in an abusive relationship. If you don't do this, you're hurting them. And I was like, far out. I didn't think of it in that way. I just kind of made it about me. And it's not about me, because I'm not the one that like inspires healing or inspiration. Like, there's something greater that's coming through. I have a bigger trust, just the same way that I like got like every epic thing that I've ever accomplished, like, you know, all the creative stuff I've ever done. It's not me. I'm not Lani, this like super thing. There's like something greater that comes in and guides me and helps me when I ask for help, and heals me and gives me the words and sends me the right people and just gives me that extra belief. And I was like, okay, I can do this. So that's why we started our company together, and it's been super rad. And I just know that my purpose is to stop as many women as I can from pushing that self-sabotage button, because one thing that I've learned is the more successful I get, like the more I had, the more amazing I felt, the harder I fell every time. Every time I pushed that sabotage button, it was worse and worse, and to a point where I was afraid for my life. And I don't want any other person to feel that way. I don't want anybody to sit in their body and sit in their head for one more second and feel like, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I'm going to stand for abuse, or I'm going to like have this abusive relationship with myself and my body and my worth, or I'm not going to live my dreams, because I know that there's so many people out there that were stuck in their head too. Like, I don't have anything to offer, when really it's not us offering. It's just if we have the courage to share, which is super uncomfortable because I just cried a lot. I'm a crier though. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable. I was super nervous before I went on before this, but it's like my job. My job is to tell you that I have been there. I have felt so broken. I have felt so lost and afraid and so hopeless, and felt like other people's happiness was my fault, and carried it as my own, and not lived my life because of all these old stories. And what I realized was, healing is the same. If you're healing from body issues, past relationships, addiction, the stories and the struggle, there can be 1 million problems. Like, you can sit here and tell me for 5 hours about all your problems and all the people that hurt you and all the past things you went to and all the times you didn't feel like you were good enough and all the people that called you whore and all the times that you were body shamed and controlled, and that can go on for an infinite amount of time. But the shift, right? Like, the reason that I can sit here and share and help to inspire and love and put these women workshops on where we all grow together is because there was a shift in the way that I started thinking. There was a shift in the stories that I told myself. So it's not that like about being perfect, right? It's about choosing to learn through love. So we can either go through life getting punch and punch and punch and head under the water, and the next storm to the next storm to the next chaos to the next negative relationship to the next sabotaging. And we can do that, and that's living from fear, and that's holding on to the old stories that life is hard, that I'm not good enough, that I'm fat, that no one will ever love me, that my parents ruined my life. We can do that. Or you can make the shift and start changing the stories that you tell yourself. So now my intention always is, when I go into that old Lani that feels like I'm not good enough, that's afraid that I'm going to fail, I remember to come back and I let myself feel like the anger or the rage or the insecurity, and I know it's there, and I'm like, okay, I get you, like I see that you're there, I feel that you're freaking out, I feel the stomach ache, I feel that this is really intense. And then I bring myself back through these new shifts and these new tools and this new mindset, and I get out of the old past and into the present moment as fast as I can by just acknowledging that that's a story in my head and it's not the truth, and I don't like the way that I feel when I'm thinking about all those old past things, and when I give my power away and when I'm a victim. Like, the worst state for me ever to be in is being a victim, feeling like I have no power, feeling like my happiness is directly connected to everybody else. I feel like shit. I feel it's the worst. That's the worst place for me to be in. And I know that when I manifested the shit out of Chris, right? When we called in this amazing business and this amazing life together where we get to travel and share our stories and help other women, that I wasn't in a victim state, that I was standing in the present moment going, everything that I've ever gone through is actually a gift, because I can hear you. When you have this pain on your heart that you think is so big and so great, I can hear you because I had that pain in my heart that was so big and so great. So actually one of my mantras is being grateful for everything I've ever gone through, because I feel like an Amazon warrior, and I feel like that's my purpose, to help you and to help you be a badass and get through it, and to be a freaking Amazon warrior right next to me, and to live your dreams and to kick ass. So this is how I do it, is I am doing these workshops, and because there was so much epic energy and excitement, and people like, F word, I can't be in LA, like I can't get there, I'm on the other side of the country, or from Australia and Europe, all this such incredible feedback and excitement. So we decided to do a live one online, which means you can do it from your freaking living room. All you need is your yoga mat. The first workshop is going to be about this relationship with our body. I think that a lot of us have this crazy weird thing, like I just heard this again from another client, like, but I'm fat, that's why I'm single, but I feel disgusting and I have no confidence. And your body has nothing to do with, if you're single, it's not going to make anybody love you more. And if you get the body of your dreams and you work out and then you still go into this new relationship with those old stories that you have to be perfect, you have to be skinny to be loved, you're going to sabotage the shit out of it. I swear that's not where it comes from. And we think that, like, oh, it's just one area, but I'm doing really good in my business, or I'm doing, you know, like I have my love life. It's one energy, it's one healing. There's absolutely no way that you can reach your full potential and completely heal. I mean, I just had that example. Like, I had been doing amazing before I met my ex-husband, before I got into the most abusive relationship ever. But I still had this old story that I like, right? That I had to be perfect. There had to be a shift coming in. It affects everything. So you might be doing really good, you might be super successful, but it's just a matter of time before you hit that self-sabotage button, because we cannot go into these new experiences with these old stories. So if you're in the washing machine and you're like, I keep doing the same shit, I'm stuck, I have no confidence, or like, why do I keep getting in relationships and having all these excuses and feeling sorry, there's this shift and this mindset that goes on inside, and that's what we're doing in the workshops, because it is my purpose and my love and my gift to be able to share this with you guys, so you don't have to freaking suffer, because we're gonna learn lessons in life and we're gonna go through some tough shit, but they don't need to freaking be abusive, they don't need to be gnarly, they don't need to be toxic. There's a way that we can go through life and learn and live and love, and it can be enjoyable. If you have this old story that life has to be hard, that's an old story. If you can like resonate, if you hear what I'm saying, if you're like, holy shit, I've been there, like, what do I do now? If that's your question, if you're like, where do I go now? What do I do now? We need to get all up in that mind. We need to switch those stories, and you need to come to the workshop, because I'm not gonna like just do the thing where I'm like, oh, it's cool, like, just, you know, hang in there, like, just do your namastes. That's bullshit. You have to make a huge change. You have to like do something different than you're doing now. And the yogi in me is like, oh, they'll come when they're ready. Like, I'm telling you, you do not have to suffer anymore, and I don't want to see anybody having to go through one more second of it. So I'm laying the smack down, telling you, you need to get in this workshop. There's these shifts. We're gonna have a Q&A, so it's live, right? I'm there live in front of you, so we get to do all this together, and we'll be getting in the head and healing those old stories, because you're gonna keep repeating it. The universe is giving you these lessons, and that was the great lesson that I got from my last relationship. The universe knew I was ready for it. The universe knew that I was ready to break those old stories, that I'm not a whore. I can be sexy. It doesn't make me sleazy. There's nothing wrong with dancing the way I dance, right? All these lessons that I needed to learn, and until I was ready, I was going to keep going even deeper and deeper, and they were going to be getting worse. And so I chose to listen to that and learn from, like, it's about being ready, and being ready to do the work. If you're not ready to do it, the pattern's never going to go away. So if you're on Instagram, I'm going to put a link in my profile. If you're on Facebook, I'll put a link in the comments. And it's time, dude. Like, we are women. We are lifting each other up. There is a freaking way where we can have it all. Literally. Like, for sure. You can manifest one thing in your life. You can manifest it all. You don't have to do the thing where but I don't deserve the this and the that. Queen up. Queen up. Have it all. I'm super excited to see you guys in the live. Thank you for listening. Just if I can get to one of you amazing, beautiful women and stop you from pushing that sabotage button, that's my purpose, baby. All right, thank you so much for listening. I didn't get to read the comments. I was crying and wiping my nose, but I'll see you guys soon. Just message me, take that leap. Believe that it's possible. I swear in my life it is. All right, I'm going to end like one at a time. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you connected to my story, and I just want to help as many people as I can. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because I'm putting videos out every week that are going to give you tools to heal and be your best self and love your body, see your self-worth, and step into your power. As I mentioned at the end of the video, I'm doing these live workshops because we've got such a big connection to women all over the world that the way that we can get everybody together in one room is by doing it live. So you can do it from any time zone, from the comfort of your living room. I'm going to be doing all the healing live, the yoga, the meditations, Q&As at the end. So go ahead and check the link below, and you can sign up for all the live workshops. And I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day.